Oscar Månsson Grahn and I work at Västtrafik. And today I'm going to talk about the concepts of MVP and MLP and how we use those in our website project that launched just over a year ago. And I'm going to do it by using Lego in true agile fashion. And in window 9 you can see my colleague Millie talking about Lean UX and MVP and how we use that on a daily basis in the web team. But today I'm going to talk about how we use it to steer our priorities during the project to be able to launch the new website. So MVP is a topic that has been talked about a lot and written about a lot, and you've probably seen this illustration by Henrik Nyberg with the car and skateboard metaphor, and what it basically describes is that you should focus on the underlying need of your customer, and here in the case how to get from A to B faster, and the minimum product that you can get feedback on from your users is a skateboard in this sense. So you've probably seen this also, the feedback loop of you build something, you measure it and you learn, and then you build again. But another concept that's quite popular to talk about these days is also the MLP, the minimum lovable product, because it's not likely often that the MVP is going to make your users happy, but the MVP is good because it's the smallest amount of product that you can get feedback on, and the MLP is the smallest product that your customers is able to love. So these concepts we found were pretty good to combine during our website project, because many times you're not starting from scratch. You when we started off the project, we obviously already had a website, and if you use the car metaphor, it probably looked something like this. It's basically an old machine with a lot of functionality in it. There aren't any spare parts left, and the customers, they expect a car, but they think that this one is maybe not modern enough, and we certainly think that we can do better, and also it's quite hard for us to fix this machine, and there aren't it's sort of end of life for this. So how do you then go about to use the MVP concept when we know that we probably need to build a car? So I'm going to use Lego to illustrate this. So these stacks here are different sections of the old website, and so for instance this could be the start page, this is our travel planner, this is the customer service section, and this is the profile section of the website. And all these Lego pieces represent some sort of content or functionality on the site. And the first thing you want to do is analyze how your website performs. What is used on the site, what is working well and what is not working well. And you can do this by going through your web analytics, and we had a good web analyst in our team that helped us do this. You obviously do user reviews, interviews, etc. Anything that you can get hold of to sort of understand how your website works. And you'll probably find that you have quite a lot of functionality or content on a website that's not performing well. It's maybe not used, or the functionality that was built is not serving your customer needs properly. So well, we need to find out like what do we need to do when we build a new website to be able to launch and replace the old one. That's basically finding out what's our MLP, our minimum lovable product. So when we went through the site, we saw that if this is the start page, for instance, we saw that on the start page we had a very complex map functionality that the users basically hated. It was not working well, it took very long time to load, etc. And going through the different sections of the site, we could see that there's a lot of this going on. So we thought that those things we probably don't need to consider when we build a new site, or we don't have to consider them when we think about like what's our MLP. But obviously it was an old site. It was desktop only. We had a small mobile version of the site that it did the job basically, but it wasn't making our users too happy. But still, we had a lot of visitors, and they went to a site for different needs. So that we had to figure out. And once we've done that, then we start building, and obviously not just by looking at the old site, we need to figure out like what are the actual needs of our customers, and what functionality should we prioritize. But they have a lot of expectations on the new site because they're used to the one that we have today. So then we started. So if this is the old site, then on the other side we start building. On the other side we start building our new site. So we start obviously with the most prioritized user needs. So we start with maybe one section here on the start page, getting a start page up and maybe a decent navigation. And so we do the basic stuff there, and then like on this section, let's say this is the section for tickets. We start with the most prioritized information that the customers are looking for in regards to tickets, and try to do that as good as possible. And this section here could represent the travel planner section, and this actually was a piece of software that we hadn't built ourselves. It was a standard product that we've purchased from an external supplier. And they've actually upgraded to a newer version, which was responsive and mobile first. And we thought that instead of building this on our own from scratch, we can just take their new version and put that in. And obviously that one, since we hadn't built it on in hand with our users, it had some functionality that maybe wasn't working as good as it could, but it definitely did the job, and it was better than the previous version. So we put that in, and once we had this, a start page with navigation, we had some content and functionality on tickets, and our new travel planner. Then we launched this as a beta that was maybe like halfway into the project, so that we could get early feedback from real users. Obviously, we've done prototyping and user testing along the way before this, but then we could launch this to the general public and using like our Facebook channels and newsletter, etc., to let our customers know about the new site and ask for feedback on what we built so far. And that was really good because we got a lot of feedback, and we found out early that what things wasn't working, and we could change that along the way. So like this piece here we could remove with something else or change it slightly. And then we continued to work like this. I mean, the customers were still seeing the old site when they went to västtrafik.se. But we continued to build a new site in our beta version, sort of behind this. And by constantly reminding our customers that we had this beta site and inviting them to try it out, we could learn using the sort of MVP approach along the project, and sort of just building onto this. And when we could see that we're sort of getting close to functionality-wise and meeting customer needs, we're getting close to what the old site was providing. Then we could start planning for a release, because our interpretation was that as soon as the new site satisfies the user needs as good as the old one, or slightly better, then it's good enough to launch. So the customer still saw this. We had the beta release going on the other side, constantly asking for feedback and improving along the way. And once we found that the new site was matching basically the user needs of the old site, or was better than that, then we could release. So this was a good way for us to steer the project quite tightly on what needed to be done to replace the old site. And the thing was that once we released, obviously we took down the old site and released a new site, but we didn't stop there. So we continue to constantly build on the new website. So based on user feedback and input, we can add functionality that is really hand in hand with what the users want. So we thought that this approach was really good to focus on what was needed to be done first and really keeping the scope tight, and then we continue to use the MVP approach when we continue to develop the website. So I hope this is some inspiration for you if you're starting off a project and sort of try to replace something existing with something new. So thanks from us at Västtrafik, and Merry Christmas.
The question of today: do you see anywhere in your workplace that you can use the build, measure, learn metaphor to minimize the effort you put into things that the user don't want or need? Share your thoughts in the comment section down below, and please subscribe for more videos in the Agile Advent Calendar.